And we were back. I'm joined today by our beloved 16th President of this United States, Abraham Lincoln. Thanks for being here tonight, Mr. President.
Thanks for having me here tonight, Mr. President. And please, call me Honest Abe.
All right, Honest Abe, after all of your work with the people of this United States, we have an important day coming up in our country in just a few short days. The election. What advice do you have for President Obama and Governor Romney?
Oh, that's right, Mr. Roosevelt. You know, I almost forgot. When you get to be my age, these sorts of things escape your memory and you can't understand how.
You know, Honest Abe, I completely understand. Age can be a very mysterious thing sometimes.
Well, Mr. President, as I was saying, President Obama and Governor Romney really need to just push through these last few days of the election season, and the American public can be sure that their voices will be heard.
You can count on that one, Abe. And speaking of the American public, I heard that you have been doing some research on young people in the social studies classroom recently.
You were right, Teddy. I have been in an 8th grade classroom that has been studying all about the Constitution and their role as citizens.
Wow, Abe. What a treat. To work with today's youth, tomorrow's leaders.
Indeed it was. Indeed it was.
Well, what types of things did you learn from these young people? Please start by telling us why you were even there in the first place.
It's pretty simple, Teddy. You see, for years, teachers have been taking the easy street. What I mean is, they have been using the teacher edition of their textbook and going through the motions without much thought or understanding on its implications on young people in school these days. One interesting discovery that I had when learning about the citizens' right to vote was how uninterested my students were with the idea of doing it at all.
These students are so young, just 8th graders. Where do you think they are getting these negative ideas about the most important role a citizen can have?
I tell you the truth, because I cannot tell a lie. I think these children are getting these ideas from their parents, Teddy. Yes, it is so sad, isn't it, Mr. President? Anyway, after watching their bored faces and uninterested bodies, I knew I had to step in and really try to figure out a solution to this epidemic, because that's what I think it is. An epidemic that is plaguing our nation's teachers.
I couldn't agree with you more, Honest Abe.
So I decided to do a bit of my own research to see what the experts think about thinking outside of the proverbial box. Some of the research concluded that bringing the students away from the textbook itself and engaging them in several different activities, such as connecting the past with current events, using novels that relate to the time period of study, and also creating research projects that were based on a particular historical figure and civic contribution to our society made the students excited about what they were learning.
Wow, Abe, you would think that with that kind of interesting and compelling information out there, teachers would be willing to dig a little bit deeper for their students.
You would think, Ted, but this doesn't seem to be the case. And the interesting piece of information that I gathered was the importance of teachers to make sure that the students were able to connect the past to their current situation personally, on a local level, or even nationally.
Well, Mr. President, these days with the upcoming presidential election, seems like the perfect time to get students thinking about their role in government.
Right you are, Teddy, right you are. And finally, I gathered the importance of the students learning how to ask thought-provoking, critical questions.
I'm no teacher, but it seems that students across the board struggle with this idea in today's school system.
I couldn't agree more. So here is what I did with these students. I decided to give one of the 8th grade classes work outside of the book, have guest speakers come into the classroom, and do different readings, while I had the other 8th grade students do their normal, everyday routine of reading the textbook and taking notes.
Well, I sure know which class I would prefer to be in.
right? Well, the students who kept with their normal routine held your same viewpoint. They were extremely envious of the classroom that had lessons different from the average, everyday type.
So, what made you think that they enjoyed it so much?
Students from the first group, the group that had 3 guest speakers from their local government, along with various articles outside of the textbook, stated that they learned far more from the speakers than they ever thought they could have learned from their textbooks. They claim that their textbooks are boring and don't seem like real life.
Do you agree with these students?
Of course I do. And research proves this as well. One researcher, in Dockett, says this: studying social issues is vital to becoming an effective democratic citizen. By bringing in guest speakers and talking about current social issues, especially having to do with social justice, students can make personal connections beyond what the textbook can offer them.
Be honest. Are you saying that textbook is totally irrelevant in today's classroom?
Not at all, Teddy. And research does not support this. What I am saying is that there is a time and place for the use of a textbook in the classroom, but students prefer a break from the monotony every now and then.
Not to change the subject completely, but let's talk for a moment about state testing and its importance in today's classroom. Do you feel that the pressure put on the teachers makes them stick to the textbook rather than encouraging thoughtful questions and other sources of information from which to learn?
Teddy, are you trying to bully me? Step down from your bully pulpit. Just kidding. I definitely believe that high-stakes state testing has put teaching into a box. In many districts, teachers are required to teach from a particular text, on the same day, some even the same time as their teaching partners. What does this teach the students? What are they gleaning from this learning style? Exactly. It is a fact that all students learn differently. Some may learn well out of a textbook taking notes, while their neighbor may learn best when the speaker is in their classroom sharing with them what is going on in their local government. The point is, we as teachers cannot get stuck in a rut.
If I can just say, this seems to especially make sense in a classroom learning specifically about the Constitution and their role in democracy.
Right you are, Ted. The topic of democracy is the perfect example. There are many ways that students can see democracy at work in their community as well as at a state and national level.
It seems to me that a discussion with the 8th graders about democracy could lead to an important understanding and a longing to make a difference in their world through social justice.
I couldn't have put it better myself, honestly.
Well, Mr. President, one final question for you because our time is unfortunately running very short. How will this information help you as you move on from this point?
Mr. Roosevelt, the one thing that I know for sure is that I will do more to move away from the status quo and towards supplemental material as I teach a variety of social studies topics. I also hope that this brief interview will encourage other educators to do the same. Research encourages it, students love it, and students even benefit from it without realizing the learning that is actually taking place.
That sounds like a great idea, Abe. And as much as I hate to cut this short, we have to take a quick break. We will be back next with Lady Gaga singing her latest Billboard hit.